sad that I have to set alarm for things now to remember.
Yeah.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I know some of you have been up for a while, had an 8:30 meeting. Some of you may have had an earlier meeting. Thank you for being here. We do have a presentation today, so that's going to be exciting. Something different from our normal meetings. What's pulling up on my computer? No, I don't want that. Okay, there's something happening on my computer here. Make that go on.
Yeah.
Oh,
At 7 o'clock, I started getting the, can you give us a call? It's an emergency thing. And I'm like, oh, what kind of emergency? Like a real emergency or an emergency I can call you back about at noon? And they're like, it turned out it was the noon kind. It was the noon. I was like, okay, then I'll call you at noon when I'm done with this meeting.
Yeah.
I was like, that's urgent, not emergency. Those are different words. Those are
Indeed.
Okay, well, hopefully everyone had a chance to look at the notes from our last meeting. There was one update. There was a misspelling on someone's name, so that's been corrected. Did anybody see any other additional corrections that needed to be made?
I did not.
Do we have a motion to approve the notes?
Motion. I motion.
I'll
Do we have a second? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Okay, Judah, I know that you're in the completion stages of yours, but if you would mind giving us an update on the faculty student mentoring model. Do you need sharing permission? Okay.
Now, are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I don't know why I'm struggling with my microphone every time I start a new Zoom meeting. So faculty student mentoring. So last month I shared, or our last meeting I shared that the report draft was done. And so that went through the ad hoc committee for their feedback. And so right now, and the feedback was overwhelmingly good. It was and positive, just a few minor points for some revisions. And so I'll incorporate that and then it will go through the ad hoc committee again. And I'm still online to be, I should say, to present on the 22nd.
Okay.
Right? The 20,
Yes.
Friday.
22nd.
Okay. Now, I did want to say, we have a SAC COC visit here at NLC that following week.
Okay.
And on the 22nd, I did get a calendar invite from my VP to have to like a prep session for that. And it overlapped with our EFC meeting. And so I need to have a conversation with her about, you know, that might need to be something I have to be at because I think I'm scheduled to be interviewed by them. And
okay.
so if that's the case, I may need to push this back, but I don't want to say that yet. I need to have a conversation with her today about that.
Would it help any if I put you either at the beginning of the schedule or at the end of the schedule? Would it does it overlap completely?
It's like 9 to 11. And so I think ours starts at 10.
Yeah.
Right. And so if it were, you know, at the end of the meeting, maybe I think let me talk to her first just to find out. And then I'll get back with you. And if I need to push it to November, like our first meeting in November, I don't know that would be horrible. But I don't want to do that yet. Like, I don't want to say, that just came in yesterday. As, you know, so.
Well, SACS is important.
Kind of a big deal, right? Yeah. So, hi, Linda. I just saw Linda Plevick join.
Oh, hi, Linda.
My friend. Of course, you're all my friends, but.
It's good to all of you. I was just thinking. Hey.
Okay, we've got some recommendation updates. They've been presented, but there's some new information on them. New era tenure proposal, Aaron, Judah. Updates.
Aaron, would you like to share on this?
Sure. So we met a couple of weeks ago, as discussed last time, with Linda Boyer Owens and Mike Flores, and that was Judah and myself and Cindy, and we talked about the new ERA tenure proposal. We also talked about it this morning, and we have a plan to move through the components of the tenure system, the tenets, as Dr. Flores is calling them, moving them up through the board consciousness, if you will, as well as opportunities to socialize with the board members at an upcoming event on the 21st of October at Scobie on the SAT campus, and so UFS members as well. Is EFC invited to that? They should be.
The EFC fellow was invited.
I see. I think we should invite everybody from EFC.
I think it should be all the senates, but
I think so too.
It's the SLT and the Board of Trustees. So presumably, it will talk about topics of conversation related to the institution and, student success and our talent. And that would include, of course, faculty, and we expect to have some conversations around tenure. The one sticking point remains this issue that we have to have a conversation about. I think that everyone is sort of aware of at this point, the components of tenure being development and evaluation in the probationary period, the probationary period itself being a period of time, the tenure decision, the accountability measures, including some kind of, there's a request to actually call it post-tenure review, because that's the thing that people recognize. We didn't actually call it that in our proposal because we already have faculty performance evaluations for tenured faculty that happen every 2 years. So we're going to keep that and say, look, we're already doing this. And instead of calling it something different or saying this is a new different thing, it's like, no, we're going to have the same thing that's already happening for our tenured faculty with anyone who would go through this process. So those are some of the components. And I think that there seems to be some synergy in agreeing that those are moving in the right direction. So then the one place where we continue to have this sort of like, well, what's going on is in the contractual design and the multi-year contract question. So we need to have that conversation. We have another face-to-face sort of in the works to try to figure out some of those issues. And we communicated today, again, at UFS this morning, some of the folks who are on this call right now, that it can mean different things when you use that term, and there's a lot of confusion about what it can mean. And talked about one way, it's like, no, this is not tenure. Another way, if it is talking about automatic annual renewal of contracts, well, then that's part of what we're talking about. So we need to have that conversation and get clarity on what the definition of the multi-year contract or annual renewal is, and address the concern that tenure equals lifetime appointment, which is, I think, not what we're implying, and that the other than annual automatic annual renewal and the accountability procedures remain in place, including at an evaluation, someone would be identified as being in need of improvement, progressive discipline is initiated, and then something different would happen that would go towards either a termination or non-renewal. So not to get into the weeds, but I feel like I have to spell things out, because like, what are we really talking about here, right? So we have yet to have that conversation, and we expect to have it soon. In the meantime, we're going to take our retooled recommendations to highlight the newness of the components of tenure to SLT, and we have that in the works for late October, early November. Did I get it all? What else? Am I on mute? What's
that was
happening?
good. I think that was good. Any questions for Aaron or Judah? Okay, then Aaron,
Yeah.
could you update us on the end of course survey, other than the fact that it's going to SLT October 25th? Anything to update there?
No, it's the same stuff, and look forward to bringing that to SLT and then to the board as appropriate afterwards.
Yeah.
Thank you for facilitating that. Appreciate it.
Yeah, sorry it took so long.
Hey,
It was more complicated than expected. Okay, the Board of Trustees presentation, y'all saw that at the last meeting. Let me pull that up so we can. Go over it again. It's the same proposal or the same presentation. Ad hoc's completed working on their presentation. Since the presentations happened after these date or after this date, that's the way it's going, but I'll update the board that this stuff is in the past by the time I get to the board. So presenting to the VPASs on September 30th, incorporated feedback from that. Presenting to SLT on October 25th, as Aaron just mentioned, and then the behind the scenes of stuff that will need to get taken care of through the programming department. The new era tenure proposal, I will incorporate the fact that it's going before SLT late October, early November. That will not be written on here because the presentation's already been submitted. But we have gotten feedback from EFC and the VPASs. There are continuing conversations happening between the ad hoc representatives and administration and planning to go to the board late October, early November. Then we have a couple of current EFC charges, the faculty evaluation and platform, phase 1, which is the evaluation portion. They finalized the write-up in the forms and they're presenting to EFC on October the 8th. Faculty student mentoring model, finalized draft of recommendations, presenting to EFC on October 22nd. If that ends up changing, then I'll update that in my narrative.
Cindy,
And that's basically all the slides there are.
Cindy, did
Yeah.
you mention back on slide 3, I think, tenure, I think you stated tenure going to the board?
It's going to SLT late October, early November. I don't know when it's going to
Okay.
get on the board schedule.
Okay, because I thought you said board.
I may have, I meant
October.
SLT.
Okay, thank you.
this looks
Any other
great. Thanks,
questions or
Cindy.
comments?
Wow, this looks really strong.
Thank you.
Looks good.
Really nice to see all that work being like accomplished.
Yeah.
I like to be able to move things from that whole, we're working on this to like, we're presenting this stuff. We're ready. We're doing it. I
Yeah.
think that's really nice.
So speaking of presenting and being ready.
Oh, I'm
Kelly-
not, never mind. No, I'm just kidding. All right, you want to give me some
Let me-
screen sharing?
Let me get there.
That's funny. I must be a little bit nervous about this presentation because my Southern is coming out a little bit. I've got it very well under control, but all of a sudden I'm like, give me that sharing ability yet? Give me that sharing.
You should have sharing ability now. Let me know if you don't.
All right, let's find out. Thank you for the support, Aaron. All right, let's see here. Let's make sure I pull up the right thing. There it is. All right, look at that. Is everyone seeing what I'm seeing?
Yeah.
Excellent. Now let's see if I can move some things out of my way so I can actually start the slideshow here and you don't have to look at all the other nonsense. There we go, slideshow.
While you're getting that, I'm gonna go get me some more coffee. I'll be right back.
All right, you want me to wait?
Yeah. Give me
Okay.
30 seconds.
Not a problem.
Bring us back some.
I'll have a few sips of my coffee while we wait.
I don't have any more coffee. Need more after the last meeting.
I am back.
All right. Thank you. Well, thank you for being here, everyone. I am Kelly Wilder, as you probably all already know, and Ruby Martinez, my co-chair, and I will be presenting the faculty evaluation system recommendations from phase 1 for our ad hoc today. Okay. Oh, there we go. Ruby, take it away.
Yes. The ad hoc committee for faculty evaluation there are the names of all the people that were on the committee, a good representation, including people that were outside of EFC, and Dr. Laura Sanchez, VPAS of NLC. Okay, Kelly, I'm not able, are y'all seeing the entire slide?
Yes.
Okay, let me fix my screen, I apologize. Okay, no, I had it on the wrong side. Okay, the concern, faculty performance evaluations at the Alamo Colleges District was last reviewed a while back in 2016. And Faculty 80 has several concerning issues. The platform does not coincide with documentation required for promotion, causing redundancy of effort. So faculty are having to input information more than once and documents. The Faculty 180 platform does not allow for adding signatures to required documents, nor does it provide a tracking tool for chain of command review and signatures. So this is another huge concern that we had. And a lot of faculty have also mentioned that the system's interface is cumbersome and stressful to both faculty and the peer reviewers. The system is more expensive money-wise than its value. Due to the expense of the system, some faculty groups were not included in the system, creating 2 different evaluation processes among faculty. So that part makes it inequitable. Evaluation documentation is required in District Policy D.7.1 and D.8.2 can be gathered and stored.
Cost effectively.
Yeah, by cost-effective means and more efficient. I apologize.
No
Thank you.
worries.
Kelly.
All right, so the UFS, we were discussing these concerns and decided it was a big enough concern that we should write ourselves up a proposal for the EFC. And we created that proposal, and after a couple of revisions and some workarounds, we created a proposal, got accepted, and this is the ad hoc charge. Valerie White, do you have a question?
I'll wait until you're done. I meant to do that after.
Okay.
I do have
No
a question about it, and it may come up later, but I'll pose that question at the end. Sorry.
Okay, great, thanks. No problem. I just want to make sure we didn't jump too far out there, leave people behind. All right, so basically the charge was divided into 2 phases, because at first we were just like, let's just work on repealing Faculty 180, and it's like, well, why don't we talk about the whole evaluation system first? Like, let's really look at this system and see what do we need, because you can't just say like we want to repeal the tool without dealing with the system. So in phase 1, which is what we're presenting to you today, we were charged with reviewing the current performance evaluation process and forms that are established by our district policy and procedures in D.7.1 and .2, identifying opportunities of improvement to the current process that would ensure the continuation of like robust and effective faculty evaluation, things that are going to, constantly improve success, constantly improve professional growth, and make sure that we kind of have a full faculty lifetime cycle of improvement. We wanted to make any recommended changes to the forms and the process, and then definitely make sure that we create streamlined fillable forms for all pieces of evaluation as recommended. And actually, I think you'll see when we go through this that we actually kind of took that even one step further. Dr. Christopher Davis just really put in a lot of effort to making these forms fantastic, and I think it'll show in a little bit. Our phase 2 after this would be to determine if Faculty 180 needs to be amended or replaced for another tool, and if so, determine what that new platform needs to do, and then of course start researching the platforms and making recommendations and doing the cost benefit analysis. We've actually stepped ahead and we've gotten those first 2 bullet points of phase 2 handled in this part. We have determined that yes, we should replace 180, and we know what the tool needs to do based on the work that we did with phase one, but we'll still need to actually do the pieces of researching potential platforms and making sure that whatever we come up with works appropriately. And so we took the charge. We made a team. You saw the team just a little while earlier. It's a diverse group of faculty across the Alamo colleges. There are a variety of disciplines. We had Dr. Laura Sanchez as our VPAS advisor from NLC, who also joined our committee and gave us very valuable input from the administrative side of things, and also was able to help us a lot with the landscape analysis and contacting colleagues at other colleges and institutions to see what they were doing. Wynn was literally every Monday at 4 p.m. and sometimes even when we were off contract. Like, this was, I can't even begin to stress to you how dedicated this group was and how much I appreciate the effort that went into this. And what did we discover? The first thing we discovered was that all 5 colleges were handling faculty evaluation differently, like not necessarily wildly differently. People were getting evaluated everywhere. It wasn't like anyone was just completely going rogue and throwing out the process entirely, but we were all handling the process differently. And we found that we all liked and didn't like certain aspects of our processes, which definitely served well as creating some foundations for what we did and did not want. Like it's kind of, so we were able to do some landscape analysis just within our own district before we even branched out to others. Now, as far as the doing evaluation, really, it's like, why do we care? Well, the reason we care is that if you're a faculty member at any of the Alamo colleges, and you have your tenure, your rank, all of that is recognized at all of those colleges. So as a full professor at St. Philip's College, if I transferred to Palo Alto, I would transfer to Palo Alto fully tenured and as a full professor. And so it's important that we kind of have a baseline idea of what that should mean, across the district, so that, we're making sure that we have the right caliber of employees at all of our district colleges, and that there's also some equity. The equity piece really does matter, that we're getting similar processes. So we completed a landscape analysis after that of what similar institutions are doing with their faculty evaluations. And one of the things we found out is, by and large, like what's in our policy and procedure, most institutions were doing something quite similar to that. Maybe, small differences here and there, but most of them did have some means of chair evaluation, classroom observations, peer reviews and stuff. Some did and some did not have self-evals. We thought the self-evaluation was very important, so we definitely decided to keep that. But a lot of the general idea was pretty similar across other institutions. And then the collaboration piece varied from place to place. And we also, of course, researched best practices and evaluation. Did some scholarly research to see what the recommendations were. And one of the biggest things that we found is that there was strong recommendation for being heavy on the peer review side of things. There was strong recommendation for making the process very collaborative. The more collaborative the process was, the more there seemed to be faculty buy-in and the more development actually happened for faculty throughout their lifespan hopefully their lifespan exceeds their employment, throughout their employment span at the colleges. And so our research basically guided us to these recommendations.
Okay, our first recommendation is that we recommended the adoption of the reworked evaluation form. So D.7.1.2 exhibits A, C, D, and E, and replace the current F with new exhibit, and process for the faculty self-eval, the classroom observation, the peer evaluation, and the chair evaluation, and the newly created asynchronous classroom observation. So that is a new piece that we're hoping that that is going to be very important, because that's something that we didn't have before. We also recommend that the self-peer and chair eval serve as a collaborative process in the pursuit of faculty development. And Kelly will be presenting something in slide 8 to show you that process, a really good graphic that Christopher produced. We recommend including library and counseling faculty in this process, utilizing the same forms, process, and system as all other faculty. So this part is very important. as we've seen, because we want to encourage equity. And so we don't want different faculty utilizing different processes and forms. So that part is very important. Our recommendation 3. We recommend following district procedure D.7.1.1 for faculty evaluation, which states, and everyone's familiar with this, student surveys are part of the portfolio evaluation and shall be used primarily for the improvement of instruction. And end of course survey results should not be used as a primary measure of teacher effectiveness for an instructor's performance evaluation or tenure or promotion dossiers, except as evidence that the faculty member is seeking student feedback to improve their instruction through the surveys. And recommendation, lastly, 5, we recommend that the Alamo colleges replace Faculty 180 with a system that is more appropriate to this process that will be determined during phase 2. And here we have a graphic for you guys. All faculty are not included in the old system. For example, counselor and librarians were not included or are not included. Currently, in our new system that we're proposing to district, all faculty will be included in the system. Access is very important. In the old system, administrators have no access to evaluations. So it's very difficult to get a hold of the evaluations if an administrator needs to see them. The new system, we're going to have access, permissions, and sharings are going to be available up the chain from chair, from the faculty member all the way up to administration, to the chancellor as well. The old system, as far as career span peer review, in the old system, faculty do not receive peer reviews post tenure. And we talked about this in our meeting in UFS this morning a little bit. In the new system, faculty are peer reviewed at least every 2 years throughout their employment. So we want to stress this when it comes up in relation to tenure and in relation to our proposal, because as it stands, as Kelly mentioned, you know, once you get tenure, if you don't go up for promotion, you don't have any peer reviews. Okay, so in the new system, faculty are peer reviewed at least every 2 years throughout their employment. Okay, classroom observation. In the old system, all classes are observed under the same criteria, regardless of modality. And since we added the new evaluation for asynchronous, the new system, faculty classes are evaluated consistently with their modality of teaching. So you don't have to make any kind of adjustments and use the same form for asynchronous and synchronous. We have 2 different forms for that.
All right, so we'll talk improvements now. So one of the biggest improvements is the communication feedback loop. And honestly, if we had a graphic to demonstrate it well enough, like these little arrows would be going back and forth all over the place, because that's how we built the system. But we were limited on our graphic access. So here's what you got. You got things showing a flow. So one is the communication loop with getting the administrator access, which is very, very important to this process. I know one of the things I've heard from the VPs multiple times is that trying to get access to these evaluations has been really difficult. They can't get into Faculty 180. There's no way to share. They would literally have to like go into a chair's office at the time that the chair had access and sit there and look at it with them. And that's, you know, that's not real practical. And it doesn't flow as words with this process. They would be able to have sharing permissions up the chain of command. So it also will streamline things like promotion dossiers and stuff like that, because we can just send those things straight up and they have them. And so there's not as much redundancy of effort, and the communication piece is there. So, you know, so also that allows for kind of some extra oversight. You know, if a VP sees something or a dean sees something, you know, they can communicate to the chair, here, you're looking at this, you know, whether that's a great thing or a terrible thing, right? Like, you know, do you see what this faculty member is doing? That's amazing. We need to push more of this, or, you know, or we need to get a handle on this quickly. This faculty member clearly needs some help or development in this area. Career span peer reviews, I think, is one of the critical important pieces of this. Like Ruby was saying previously, it is feasible the way things are now for someone with tenure to actually never get another peer review because they're only required when you go up for promotion. So once you're fully promoted, or if you just decide you're not going to bother with promotions, you can actually just not be peer reviewed again. And so now we have it set up to where you get peer reviewed every 2 years, no matter what. And the reason I think that one of the reasons that we think this is important is that we need to get communication between our peers and our departments. We need to know that we're contributing effectively, that we're giving the service that the department needs and requires, that we're all doing our part. And also, I think, and I've definitely, been guilty of this before, like, what do you mean I'm getting peer reviewed by an instructor? I'm a professor. What the hell do they have to tell me? And it's like, well, actually, they probably have quite a lot because they've got fresher eyes and newer things. And so they might see something that could help me as a faculty member that's been doing it this way for a long time or what have you. And also it's good for them because they can also see how someone who's seasoned and has developed for a while is doing things, right? Like it's a feedback loop. I think it helps everybody to do better. And I think that that's just really critically important to the improvement of entire departments. The tracking feature is there, which I think is really important. Dr. Davis actually set up those forms. I don't know if y'all had a chance to look at them yet. In a way that tells them exactly where things are supposed to be tracked. And because we're going to offer through whatever new system we get, sharing permissions, it's very easy to track where things are in the timeline. So as a faculty member, if I've sent a dossier up the view, I don't necessarily have to sit there wondering, well, where is it? I don't know where it went. I can literally look in the system and say, oh, it's sitting on the VP's desk right now. And so once they review it, it'll go to the president and so on and so forth. Again, the clear workflows, I think, are really important for the communication piece. Every single one of those evaluations has a purpose statement that explains why we're doing this, which I think is always important. I think sometimes we lose sight of why we're doing things because, it's a checklist, like, let's just go, let's get it done, let's move forward. They have clear instructions and a clear timeline of where things are supposed to go and when you're supposed to do them. And I think that will help keep everything very in sync. There's built-in collaboration throughout the process. So if you look at the graphic here, like the chair, like you see like this chair evaluation and it goes to goal setting, but to kind of give a little more explanation into the process, the faculty member communicates with their chair and their peer team at the beginning of the year, academic year. They talk about their goals. They make sure that everyone's on board with what the goals are for the upcoming year. They do their professional development, which is an integral piece of our evaluation process to make sure that those things are tied together. Then they receive their classroom observations. They do their faculty self-evaluation that explains what they've done. And through each of those processes, when you get them, there's a communication piece between you and your evaluator that lets you discuss things, get real improvement advice. And then in the faculty self-evaluation, there's those 7, is it 7 or 6? I forget, those faculty competencies that we talk about. And there's an opportunity to tell your evaluators, yes, I may have worked on all of them because hopefully we all are, but these 1 or 2 faculty competencies I really focused on this year, and this is what I did to improve in this way, and these are the improvements I'm seeing, and this is my plan going forward. And then there's the peer eval and the chair eval, and all of those are feedback moments to make sure that, one, that your peers and your chair know what you're doing, and y'all are working together to make departments, because I don't think any of us, no man's an island. We don't work alone. We work within these groups and these communities in our departments, and it's important that we are synced. And so now we've got our development and our evaluation system completely synced in a way that I think will foster better growth. And then, of course, the next big, huge improvement on this is the consistency. All the colleges will be following the same overarching process, but also within that consistency is some built-in flexibilities, because we have places in, say, our chair evaluation where there's a spot that the chairs and the faculty member agree on which either institutional or departmental goals you're working on this year, what kind of metrics they want you to be hitting and working towards. And that allows us to tailor things both with the uniquenesses of our individual colleges and also with the ever-changing times, right? Like, teaching is this kind of constantly moving target. And so those need to be adaptable. We'll have all of our faculty under one system, which is also an equity issue. And then, of course, we're able to observe our classes consistently with their modality. Before, we were really trying to make that face-to-face model work on an asynchronous class. And while asynchronous classes are definitely as effective as synchronous classes, and we're covering the same content, the way you get that done is not the same if you want to do it effectively. And so we wanted to capture that in observation so that our asynchronous faculty are getting the meaningful feedback they deserve. All right.
Okay, next steps, moving into phase 2. Faculty 180 does not attune well with the level of collaboration that we've built into these recommendations, nor does it include all faculty, as we mentioned earlier. The committee recommends that we utilize upgraded versions of tools that we already have from districts, such as Acrobat Pro and OneDrive, to sign, save, and archive these documents that we have. The new tool will need to store annual data while creating a cumulative record. It will allow all full-time faculty to participate, so addressing equity, serve both as a platform for evaluation and promotion/tenure, allow for signature and document tracking, like Kelly mentioned. You won't have to wonder where your documents are at. You'll be able to track them yourself. Allow for changes to sharing privileges to stakeholders that are involved, and provide intuitive, user-friendly interfaces, unlike the current system that we have. Reflect common evaluation processes across all 5 colleges, and I know that there may be questions about this that I saw in the chat. And lastly, we want this new system to be reportable to SAC COC in an easily formatable way. So that's going to be very important as far as accreditation is concerned.
Okay. And so going forward, we'll definitely need some, definitely need to do some communication, and we'll definitely need some collaborators. With our phase 2, we'll need to be working with IT, because of course they know that technical end of things, and they also know some of the legalities of the technical end of things that we're not necessarily privy to. Of course, we'll need to work with HR, our ethics compliance officer, especially with those pieces that are going to change procedure a little bit, or for uploading new forms into our policy and procedure exhibits. And of course, legal and purchasing for any purchasing that needs to be done. As far as communication goes, of course, we'll need to be rolling out through our faculty senates to kind of do that across the kind of lateral communication, but also kind of more the top-down communication with administrators, so that everybody understands the process and what's expected, and make sure that people fully grasp what the changes are, because I think that's easier sometimes for people to, if they know what's different, it's easier to communicate it. And then of course, again, with communication, we'll need HR and also our SAC COC liaisons, because of course, all of this stuff needs to be above board as far as our accreditations are concerned. And then just to let you know, we really did take into consideration, as we were working on this, our values and our strategic objectives. And we think that this really puts students first, because it's heavily focused on faculty development and ensuring that our students are getting the best experience out of us, and that can-do spirit, the inclusion and the equity is respect for all, the more collaboration built in the process. And of course, this has all been very data informed. And of course, it'll hit our strategic objectives of student success, principal leadership, and performance excellence.
And so that concludes our presentation. We'd like to thank all of you for listening to our presentation. And we'd also like to thank everyone on the committee that we mentioned at the beginning. So we'd like to acknowledge everyone's hard work. It's been a long process, but this is our presentation for now. I'm sure it'll change as it goes up to the board, as always, but we'd like to know if there are any questions. Now we're opening it up to questions.
Okay, I know Valerie, you had some questions earlier.
Yeah, as a part of the HR team, and thank you, this is great. It speaks to the need for better evaluation system. And I put forward the fact that we do have one. We already have the Alamo Talent Performance Management System that staff uses, but there is a faculty component. So my feedback is to encourage you all to take a look at that and to connect with Hope Galvan McCall, my director, Linda, who is also here, because there's a faculty component built into it. I'm not sure of how familiar everyone is with that, but we do have some faculty members across the district at various, it's spotty, but some of them who are using the Alamo Talent System for different colleges that are using it. Again, it's not all of them, but I wanted to ask if that had been considered, and then where do adjuncts fit into this? I got a call before hours this morning from one of our presidents asking about evaluating part-time employees, which technically that's also adjuncts. And so what are we doing to also include an evaluation for our adjuncts, and how would they fit into this process?
In terms of the adjunct evaluations, traditionally throughout the district, they years. So the issue with putting adjuncts through a rigorous evaluation process like we're proposing for full faculty is that frankly, we don't, I'll speak honestly, we don't pay them enough to go through the process and the procedures that we require of full-time, whether tenured or not. So I think from my perspective as being both an adjunct faculty member at one time and now a tenured associate professor is that we just need to make sure we shore up and apply across the district the classroom observation so that those adjunct faculty are getting feedback from their supervisors or the designee, and probably leave it at that. Yeah.
No, I get
Yeah,
what you mean.
our adjuncts aren't required to perform service to the colleges, nor are they required to do professional development. They're only required to teach. And so they would definitely fall under the classroom observation, either synchronous or asynchronous that gets put forward, but that would be the extent of their involvement in this because they are hired strictly for teaching.
Okay, so that's where under policy D71, employee evaluations, each supervisor employed by ACD shall conduct periodic performance evaluation of all full-time employees and adjunct faculty. So the adjunct is the classroom observation, and that's fine. We know that all evaluations are part of the SACS accreditation process for all employees. And now with the president asking me about the one for what are we doing about part-time? It wasn't an adjunct, it was just a part-time employee. That's what brought it to mind this morning. So again, I would love to, not in this setting, but to give someone on the committee a drive through the Alamo Talent System performance evaluation process, because it is there and it can accommodate some of what you're, or much of, I think all of it really, what you're asking. And I'm sure there's other systems out there that I'm not familiar with, but this one is already paid for. It's already in our wheelhouse. So let me know who I can speak to. And I see a lot of hands, so
okay,
just putting it out there.
Oh, great. Thank you, Valerie. I appreciate it.
I won't talk. Can I just say something?
Michael
I
Lee's
won't
got a
talk-
question.
Okay. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, but mine is going to take us somewhere else. So if Linda's talking about,
Okay.
is it a cornerstone product? Alamo Talent?
Uh-huh. We've talked about that some, Valerie, off and
Okay.
on over the years. And when they get there to that would be sort of a phase 2 thing that they might want to look at. It's one of many options. They looked at it the last time when they selected Faculty 180. So it's something for them to consider. On the adjuncts, I think what you would want to say in your presentation is that that's another group that we've wanted to get in Faculty 180, but we ran into the same limitations with adjuncts that we ran into with librarians and counselors. It takes and how it was performing. So there wasn't, as you say, that cost benefit to put a lot of effort into adjuncts, but I would think you would want to say they would have an evaluation, might not have all the pieces that a full-time faculty member has, but you would want to evaluate. Find a way for them to be